I used to know the true cost of a burger. Now I know the true cost of a data breach. I went from serving Big Macs at minimum wage to patrolling runways with an M4, now with a cybersecurity career making over 6 figures. And this isn't a motivational speech. This is a blueprint for how I traded in my McDonald's hat to a military badge to now making 6 figures as a cybersecurity analyst. If I can do it, you for damn sure can do it too. Stick around. It's your boy Hold It Down Jay, former Air Force veteran, now transitioned to senior cybersecurity analyst. I'm gonna get back to it after this theme song. Holla. Alright y'all, welcome back. Starting my first career, I was a McDonald's cashier at 16. Man, I was putting in work. It was like the grind was never stopping. As soon as I got out of high school, I was literally on my way putting in work at McDonald's. I was frying the hell out of them fries and I was taking orders. What that taught me leading up now was a lot of soft skills. You had to deal with a whole bunch of different people. Where I was at McDonald's, it was right off the interstate and you deal with all types of, I'm talking about different backgrounds. People was rude as hell, but you know what? I still showed up with a smile on my face and I provided that great customer service. It may seem small, but in the future, in the long run, I'm realizing is that it helped me tolerate a lot more things. So for the typical person, if they get yelled at or get talked to a crazy way, your first reaction on average is to yell back, get all violent. But dealing with what I've dealt with, it helped me build a lot of tolerance based off of situations like that. While being in that situation, working a typical 9 to 5 at McDonald's, it seems very stressful. Sometimes you even feel like you're stuck and you're never gonna make it out. But you have to remember the long game. I knew at the end of the day that McDonald's was just a temporary stepping stone. No matter how difficult the days may have seemed, I always showed up, had a smile on my face, came through, earned my paycheck. Sometimes I'll stay overnight, make sure it's just so I can get a couple extra dollars. That was a part of the whole learning process. Had nothing to do with cybersecurity at all. My turning point when I realized that McDonald's wasn't a forever thing in the first place was when I would see people who was 70 plus working there. And there's no disrespect to them, but having conversations with them, I can tell they was super miserable. They hated their job. They did not want to be there. So what did they do? They took all their frustrations out on me. I mean, I'm 16. I'm happy that I'm able to make a couple dollars. But you got people here whose life depend on this. And I'm not saying this to actually make fun of people who work at McDonald's that's grown. I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But sometimes you'll realize that people are in positions like that based off poor decisions. I wanted to be at McDonald's because I had an option to. I didn't want to be at McDonald's because I was obligated to. You see the difference there? And some other soft skills that it taught me too was how to work under pressure. When that line is long and it's only about a couple of y'all because some people quit on the spot, you still got to know how to push through. It can be a pain in the ass, but I mean, it will benefit you in the long run to deal with those situations rather than run away and quit like everybody else. It helped me develop somewhat of structure, meaning when it comes to ringing up a cashier or even when you're doing something as simple as frying fries, there's a strict process and guidelines you need to make. I even made sweet tea sometimes. It's a strict guideline you have to follow because if you don't follow it, the problem is it throws everything off. And that leads to my next topic, which I'm talking about as far as going to the military. Stay tuned for that. As you can see, there's nothing related to cybersecurity. Most part I'm about to tell you right now, you're probably not going to hear anything about cybersecurity for a minute. My first career inside the military police, Air Force, we call them security forces. I protected some valuable resources. Even before that, I dealt with, of course, basic training, police academy. In Texas, it's vigorous training and sometimes they got to teach you how to break down an M4 and put it back together and let me know all the nomenclature and etc. There was a whole bunch of knowledge, always got tested every week. Majority of my days was a lot of routine training. There was a lot of exercises, pretty much recalls, arming up for duty, doing tactics, and etc. A lot of different things like that. It was built on a lot of responding to actual threats. We had to respond. We was the first on the scene. It was things like that, but you did it on base. I'm not gonna lie, it for sure wasn't my passion, and you definitely had to put in a lot of work. You see, I was working, those was probably like 15, 16-hour shifts. I worked long shifts, and sometimes I wouldn't even get a break. Sometimes it was just back to back to back. You was always tired, and you just work your ass off, and you had no time to make excuses. They didn't want to hear excuses. They just wanted to see results from you making better from what you did prior. Even if I go back as far as basic training, it wasn't really hard for me to get through the military, because when working at McDonald's, dealing with people, it helped you build a tolerance for the military. And also remember, I told you the structure from when you cook fries and how the fries have to be right and the burgers have to be right and etc. It was the same way in the military. If you don't do something the right way, you can possibly get somebody hurt. When I went from New Mexico to Charleston, South Carolina, I did law enforcement there, but I did it for a little bit. The whole time while I'm in New Mexico, I was putting in work as far as my education. I was taking 6 classes full time while being active duty and working 16-hour shifts. There was no excuse for my passion inside cybersecurity. I knew there was something I wanted to do. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in cybersecurity. I just knew that I just wanted to get inside cybersecurity, because when I was actually a cop in the military, working those long hours and just sitting at the gates, I just knew that I couldn't do that for a whole 20 years. And I'm not saying that to disrespect anybody in the military. I actually have nothing but the utmost respect for them, because that takes a lot of patience to do. When I got off of work, I would literally go to Starbucks, and I was sitting in Starbucks for about 3 or 4 hours, and I'm doing all 6 of my classes online. I'm literally putting in work. I'm trying to learn things about cybersecurity, how to network, how to run up a virtual machine, how to even study for a certain test. Within that whole time, I got my security plus, I got my bachelor's degree in 2.5 years. Once I actually got my bachelor's degree in cybersecurity and etc., there was a position that was open, pretty much fixing alarm systems. They selected me pretty much out of the interview because they needed somebody that had some type of computer knowledge, and based off of my resume and what I've learned, they decided to give me a back office position as far as cybersecurity. My position ended up being a cybersecurity liaison. This is where my tech career kind of jump started. From that position, I get access to a couple of computers. I get to configure this, configure that, give users access using Azure Active Directory and etc. Now I'm in the game. I'm like, okay, cool. Fast forward, I got that position. I pretty much rolled that position out when I was getting out the military. I knew I was getting close to being out. I was a little nervous. I was looking for jobs when I was in the military. I pretty much got an offer to be a network security analyst in DC. One of the issues that I dealt with was that it was a private contractor position, and they pretty much said that we're going to offer you X amount of dollars. And I was excited, and I was like, wow, I finally got my first cybersecurity position. I'll be in DC, man. I ain't got nothing to worry about. And then they was like, yeah, we're going to give you a top secret clearance. They're going to sponsor that, which is cool. And I'll make another video as far as dealing with if you want to go that government tech route. But they was like, yeah, we going to give you this position and we'll pay you X amount of dollars. And I was able to negotiate my contract. I was so excited, man, because I'm like, wow, finally my first break. Man, I got out my damn contract out the military. They paid for my top secret clearance. My top secret clearance came right before I got out the military. I'm like, cool, I ain't got nothing to worry about. Fast forward, we get to it. Contract is up. Top secret clearance. I'm like, all right, I should be able to start. Man, do you know they told me, they was like, hey, you got to get a Homeland Security clearance, because my contractor was going to work with Homeland Security, RTX, which is also known as Raytheon. That was the main contractor. I'm like, man, are you serious? And what I found out was that they didn't want to pay me because they weren't they were the subcontract. You see, when you work for a full-time for a contracting company, like a big contracting company, like a Raytheon, if I would have went with them directly, they would have paid for me to do unclassified work until my clearance came through. But this company was like, nah, we're not paying you until your clearance comes through. I didn't know any better. You sign a contract and it make you do a non-compete agreement. What that means is that you can't even go work for a defense contracting company because it's pretty much a non-compete. And I felt really stuck at that situation. I was pissed. I was like, man, like, what do? I was freaking the hell out. So let me just wait a little bit and see if I have any luck with anything. No, nothing was happening. Man, when I tell you at that point, I was like, forget DC. I applied in Florida, Las Vegas, California, Seattle, Washington, Texas, Charleston, any place I can get a position, I was applying to, because I didn't care. That's how hungry I was. At that point, it wasn't even about the money anymore. I just wanted a position to where I'll be able to just express myself and show myself my work. It just seemed like there like 70 plus applications. I'm like, damn, I can't get ahead. They literally kept rejecting my applications. I'll do one interview and then I'm fumbling the back. I'm like, bro, like, and then you kind of freak yourself out. You like, damn, should I like stay in the military and extend? It was a really tough situation because of my situation of making bad decisions as far as, because I told you in my last video, I was making horrible financial decisions. I wasn't eating right. I got overweight. I was like 218 at the time when I was getting out the military, just waiting to start my job. I told you I took out another loan so I could stay afloat. The problem was that with that loan, I could have moved inside another apartment, but the issue was I didn't want to get an apartment in freaking Florida somewhere, and now they'd be like, oh, well, we got a position for you here in Seattle and I can't move anywhere. Unfortunately, I had to sleep in my car. That was a very rough moment because I had two big ass dogs at that point. They were sleeping in my trunk, and then I literally just bought a brand new SUV, and I'm like, bro, what am I doing? Like, I was just really like making bad decisions. However, if I needed to take a shower, I went to Pilot gas station, like those truck stop gas stations. Just glad to be out that phase. That's all I would say for that situation. That didn't stop me. I had my phone on hotspot, laptop. I had a charger for my laptop inside my car, and that didn't stop my hustle. I was still applying for jobs, etc. And then it was a position that came up. It was one in another town. It wasn't a defense. It was more of a private company, so it wasn't compete. And I'm like, y'all not even paying me right now. Like, I can go wherever I want. I stopped caring at that point. I ended up getting this position, and when I did my interview, the crazy part was I couldn't just leave my dogs in the car because my car has a sensor, so the alarm's going to bleep every time. Man, I had my laptop. I was in my backseat. I bought both my dogs some dog bones. They was chewing on the dog bones in the back. Had my noise cancellation headphones on. My back windows, I was in the back seat. They have like tents on them, so I covered them so it looks like I'm against a black wall. So it wasn't really, and then I had the sunlight from the front window to show exactly me interviewing. This interview, I just knew that position was for me because when I was interviewing, they asked me technical questions, but I realized all those failures I went through, it made it a lot easier to actually answer the questions that I was being interviewed, and it felt like a conversation. That's how you know an interview is meant for you, when it feels like a conversation rather than an exam. It was very good people, great management. Long story short, I got the position right away. As soon I immediately knew that, okay, this position was for me. From that moment on, like, my life has changed. I did nothing but progress from that point. That same position, I was a contractor and I was a cybersecurity analyst. And then after that, I became a full-time employee from that position. Got a raise, got a whole bunch of benefits. And then after that, I became a senior incident response specialist now. It all trickled down based off a whole bunch of failures. And I showed you that because nobody's perfect, but everybody has to go through something to get something that they want in life. You can't just expect to just sit around and have opportunity come in your hand. Yes, I showed you, I made dumb decisions. Everybody makes some type of mistake in their life. But the problem is, if you're going to keep failing and just sit there and keep blaming yourself, then don't expect no pat on your back and, expect any success out of it. You have to bounce back. Resiliency is one of the best gifts you can have. And you may wonder, when people are in cybersecurity, how do they make six figures? How are they making all this money just by sitting at the computer? It's much bigger than that. You see, we are responsible for protecting billion-dollar companies, and sometimes they even manage billions of dollars of assets. The thing is, if I was a business owner, I would rather pay a lot of money up front to analysts rather than getting breached. You'll save a lot more money paying analysts to do a job rather than dealing with a breach, because you're going to deal with your reputation going down for getting a breach because people feel like their data can't be protected. And then second of all, you got to pay some money to fix a problem that could have been fixed if you would have paid the right people to do it. Of course, cybersecurity is going to be in demand. It's forever going to be in demand. Not one AI agent can fully replace that. You're always going to need help. There's always going to be a new threat. There's always going to be a new person. No matter what, you have to stay level-headed to tackle that threat. All right, now we come to the conclusion. The true cost of a burger taught me worth ethic. The true cost of a badge taught me discipline. Discipline and high value skills. The goal just isn't about having a high salary. It's finding the skills you already have and learning how to apply them in a high demand job. If you're a veteran and you dealing with a situation like that, even if you're working at minimum wage, my situation is very replicable. You don't have to necessarily make the mistakes I did. You're going to make mistakes. That's a part of failing. Take my story and I hope it'll help you with your journey. I'm going to hold it down, Jay. Former Air Force veteran, now transitioned to senior cybersecurity analyst. I'm going to holla at y'all.